proprietary know-how that can help them scale to the next level. The next slide, please. So with Abiodun and the team, we've been working on this solution for the last few months. And I've heard the word ecosystem many times this morning. It's one ecosystem with many MFBs integrated. Starting with a very simple approach, the marketplace. We're bringing economies of scales in few places. First, CapEx. As an MFB, you have no CapEx. What DBN and us have committed to is we will do the development. And you come on the system and we do the upfront investment, and it's a pay-as-you-go utilization. Second, it's easier for us to actually, on a very narrow problem, our problem is recruiting users, getting them to share information with us and turning that information into something useful. It's easier for us to hire talent that is very, very specifically focused on this problem. So we're in a position to offer the best talent on the continent to work on a very exciting problem that they can see from Nigeria to DRC being resolved. So that's the second element. We think we can attract talent and we can do the CapEx up front. As I mentioned, we focused on the technology and the data only. So we're not a lender. We know there's many people that have better expertise than us in that subject. We don't do everything we do with CBN in terms of regulation, everything you do with the Development Bank of Nigeria instead of asset liability management. We focus just on data and risk rating. The marketplace approach used the power of multi-brand. That's where I started. In 2 days, we got 14,000 interest. This platform didn't exist a month ago. We just went on Google and say, you're interested. This is brought to you by DBN. These are the brand. 48 hours, 14,000. So it gives you an idea of how quickly we can really get a massive impact, to the point that was raised in the introduction note earlier. So we gain, this means that all the MFBs on the platform can pool resources for marketing. But then I think this is the most exciting piece, is like, by the time, you spend a month with these customers, the learning and the ability to develop a score, a credit rating, is 10x what any single player could do separately. So this is where we think the secret sauce of this collaboration is getting everybody to come and get these users on the platform to share the information, and accelerating the ability to spot fraudsters, to rate default potential, to assess affordability, etc., etc. If we can have a look at the next slide, please. One of the big change, and I'm very, very happy with the introduction note that we had here, because this is where we had to change our model. We realized that Kenya was very unusual. In Kenya, we are pure 100% online business, 100% straight through. Coming and talking to the MFBs in this room and the partners of DBN, we realized it was impossible to do the same, and we needed to have an online, offline offer. So it was necessary to bring the MFB to this digital world, to offer the ability to connect the agent, the ability to do lending with a loan officer. And we saw quite a few of the MFB that didn't have a loan origination system. So in the last 2 months, we had to change our plan. And instead of coming as a marketplace that was 100% online, we took 6 weeks to develop our first version of the agent app. So there's an element of, for all the MFBs that are participating, if today they don't have a loan origination system, the app will have 2 sides, one for our MSMEs and one for their agent and the loan officer, where they can come and actually do what a loan origination system does without having to invest in that CapEx. So we have the SME app, which is the same as what we have in Kenya. We have an agent app, which is fully offline. We bring in digital marketing, and we bring in the last piece, which might be a little bit boring, but actually is the API integration to credit bureau, to BVN verification, to CAC business verification, to open banking, so that you don't need all the MFBs to develop these pipelines separately. We develop the pipeline, they can use them. The next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, what we've done in the last months is we gradually deployed some of the solutions, like the agent app, which is a new solution for us, the SME app this week, the lenders dashboard, etc. And so we moved from a stealth mode. So the last few weeks was just purely around putting them out and testing them. 2 days ago, for the first time, we started marketing. And July is officially, we're going to go to market. We know this is version 1.0. And this is, I heard the word co-creation. We're going to break this app many times. So our expectation is to work with the MFB, because ultimately, you and your agent have the knowledge of what's happening in the market, in the community. So we want to see you use it, abuse it, tell us how you want to change it, until we get to the point where we feel it's serving the purpose, all the way down to the most challenging potential customers, the ones that are not banked, the ones that are in remote area, the ones that don't have a smartphone, just a feature phone. And these are some of the key criteria we have applied to test our product market fit. So one is, we want to get huge adoption from the agent. You know, there's an agent community out there that are used to work either on tablet, either on paper. And we want to see if we can create features that will make it much more efficient for them to play with the app downloaded. We want the lenders to use the agent app and the lenders dashboard as a way to workflow their process and to check productivity and contribution of all the agents. We want the lenders to become confident with the marketplace, because there was resistance. You're going to put my brand together with my competitor's brand. And we want to, demonstrate that the benefit far outweigh the challenges of being into one space together. And, that one of the measure of it is driving customer acquisition costs for the digital originated loan to beat the branch-based originations. We want to show that by going digital, they can have better information, faster process, more convenience, but better data. And finally, at the end, coming back to our secret sauce, make sure that the data we get has a high fidelity, and that we can really crack the issue of how you lend insecured as much as possible, because we see two ends of the market. We see people playing on a very, very short term, sometimes higher rate, so lending for a month at 5%, or very, very secured. But what we're missing, not just in Nigeria, but most of the continent, there's not a real market for unsecured. And the only way to do unsecured is to be able to do proper risk assessment. So that's the ultimate goal. We're giving ourselves, you can see the next page, please, quite a few months to get there. Yeah. So launch of the pilots, outside the stealth mode for July is today. From July to December, we're going to increase the number of PFI that are taking part, and we want to make sure that by January or sometime, early next year, we can tick all these boxes and have demonstrated in the different version of the app we will be launching that we've reached product market fit, and we can scale very aggressively throughout 2024. So that's the story. I wanted to single out a few people. So we've already seen Abiodun earlier. Marie-Esther is in the room, and she's been critical in making us understand the world of the MFBs, their challenges, the opportunity, and she's opened the door for us. I want to give a big thank you for Marie-Esther. Abiodun and the team have been helping us in understanding the technology ecosystem in Nigeria. This is just a start. We are very excited. As I mentioned earlier, I come from Congo. We see Nigeria as the country that could play for the continent, the role that Japan or China has played for Southeast Asia. We always think that if this country takes off, the whole region, the whole continent takes off. You have a massive talent pool that we are jealous of. And, we are very, very blessed and honored to be able to start this project here with DBN. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. So Fred and his team are still around. After the program, you can I mean, the PFIs can reach out to them. If you are not already part of the pilots, then we can engage on how to make sure that you also have this capability added to your business. So thank you, Fred. And I want to especially thank the board and the management of the Development Bank of Nigeria for allowing us this opportunity to create something new in Nigeria, create something new for the PFIs, making sure that we are able to scale their lending business. So I want to thank the board and management of the Development Bank for that. A round of applause, please, to them. Thank you.
Right, that was a very, very interesting presentation. And yes, for Kamwa, it's all about empowering small businesses across Africa to access financial products by equipping lenders with a new standard for digital credit scoring and underwriting. Yes, they are indeed going to be the ground. So for all participating financial institutions, yes, there will be that opportunity to interact with them. And yes, it's all about exploring and forging new alliances and partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, please another round of applause for the DBN Kamwa team. Thank you very much. Thank you for that presentation. All right, just before we have the panel session, I want us to have a group photograph. Please join me to welcome the director, DBN, on stage. Zakari Buka is on stage for this group photograph. The management team represented by the CEO, Mr. Bonaventure Okaimo, on stage for the group photograph. Thank you, sir. And also the head of corporate services at DBN, Mr. Idris Saliu. Please join us on stage for this photograph. Mr. Keynote Speaker, President and Co-CEO, Mr. Oluwakomo. Please join us on stage for this group photograph. Paparazzi, that is your cue. Let's have a group photograph right about now, just before we have the panel session. All right, paparazzi, hold it. Please join me to welcome the head of credit operations and collections at DBN, Sola Falade. Please join them on stage for this group photograph. Thank you. Paparazzi, hold it. We are not complete for this group photograph yet. Right, so once we're done with that, we'll have the panel session. And yes, our panelists are ready and raring to go. Paparazzi, that is your cue. Okay, that's like 1,000 photographs already. Get to choose the best. Thank you, sirs and ma'am, as you go back to your seats. All right, ladies and gentlemen, switching gears quickly, we are moving to the panel session. And trust me, our panelists are ready and raring to go. And it promises to be an interesting time as we listen to them contribute to the discourse from their wealth of personal and professional experience. Our first panelist today is the head business banking at FSDH. Please join me to welcome our first panelist, head business banking at FSDH, Mr. Dennis Ezaga. A round of applause for him. Dennis Ezaga is a seasoned professional with over 25 years of extensive experience in sales, SME banking, digital innovation, payments, and transaction banking. The head of business banking at FSDH Merchant Bank Limited and drives the growth of liability and asset propositions across diverse customer sectors by leveraging digital technology to enhance customer acquisition, transaction volumes, and revenue streams. Ladies and gentlemen, our first panelist, head business banking FSDH, Mr. Dennis Ezaga. Round of applause for him one time. Thank you very much, sir. It's an honor to have you with us today. Our second panelist is the strategy lead at Spurt. Please make welcome our second panelist, Christine Wilson. Kristen is a strategic venture builder who specializes in technology strategy, product development, business planning, and operations optimization within the realm of entrepreneurship. In her role at the technology solutions firm, Spurt, she collaborates with startup founders and business executives to offer strategic business advisory, research, and data-driven operations optimization. Ladies and gentlemen, our second panelist, strategy lead at Spurt, Kristen Wilson. Thank you, ma'am. It's an honor to have you with us today. Our third panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is the Chief Digital Officer at Wema Bank. Please make welcome Mr. Olusegun Adeniyi. Please be generous with your round of applause. Segun is a trained software engineer and business manager who meets enterprise-related challenges with his unique blend of commercial and technical skills. He's currently the Chief Digital Officer of Wema Bank and is passionate about developing tech startup ecosystems within Africa, providing an enabling environment for nurturing innovators while leveraging on the strength of strategic partners and collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, our third panelist, Chief Digital Officer at Wema Bank, Olusegun Adeniyi. Thank you, sir. You're most welcome. Our fourth panelist is the Head Credit Operations and Collections at Dbn. Please make welcome Busola Falade. Round of applause for her. Busola Falade is a cognate banking and finance professional with vast experience in corporate and investment banking, asset management, business development, risk management, credit administration, and branch management. She currently coordinates Dbn's credit administration process from the onboarding of all classes of CBN-regulated financial institutions as participating financial institutions in the Dbn on lending scheme, the disbursement, collection, and performance monitoring. Ladies and gentlemen, our fourth panelist, Head Credit Operations and Collections at Dbn, Busola Falade. Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it. We have the full complement of our panel on stage. And yes, to drive the conversation, I have the singular honor of inviting our moderator who will be driving that conversation. Please make welcome the Head of Information Technology at Dbn, Abiodun Ijawa. Round of applause for him. Abiodun is a seasoned technology leader with proven leadership experience, managing cross-functional teams and influencing executive level management and key stakeholders. He has directed countless complex projects and delivered new technology solutions and capabilities, some of which include formulating and implementing IT, cybersecurity, and digital transformation plans and roadmaps, directing large-scale implementations on hybrid IT infrastructure, intelligent automation of business processes, IT governance, amongst others. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator, Head Information Technology at Dbn, Abiodun Ijawa. Round of applause for him. All right, there you have it. Mr. Moderator, let the conversation begin.
All right. So we have a very Can I use this now? All right, thank you very much. So we have a very rich panel here, and you know the theme of this event is promoting innovation and sustainable partnership. And so would be engaging our panelists to drive that conversation. What we know for sure is that for us to be innovative, for us to create new values or enhance existing values, we have to talk. Talking and then executing brings about new values and things that will drive economic growth in our country and all of that. So this panel would ensure to discuss around that and bring new insights to you so that we can all go back with something that we can work with, and new ideas we are sure will be brought forth. So I'm going to start with Segun, and Segun is sitting right next to me. So Segun, I want to ask, can you talk to the audience, both seated here and those who are connecting from, wherever? How can collaboration between tech companies, startups, and government bodies be fostered to create that sustainable tech ecosystem, addressing pressing environmental and social challenges? What are your thoughts around that? So, Segun.
Thank you very much, Biodun, and good afternoon to everybody sat here, and of course the online viewers. I think, Biodun, you asked a very interesting question. I'm going to try and be brief about it. I will call out about 4 or 5 different strategies that I believe would be quite impactful in achieving these goals. First thing I would speak to is the need to have policies and regulations that are supportive. And that's, you know, the work that needs to be done by public as well as private sector practitioners, where we're bringing the market experience and market knowledge, the understanding of the customers, and we're using that to influence and introduce controlled processes and procedures that are well regulated. The second bit is making deliberate endeavors to encourage knowledge sharing and building network community, so encouraging networking. The third bit would be what we all speak to around funding. It's a constantly discussed subject matter in this space. I would articulate it as funding and investment support. And that takes me into the fourth one, which is around the level of support that would be required from an incubation and acceleration program perspective. So whilst we're speaking to funding and investment, I would say that must encapsulate incubation and acceleration of those innovation or innovative ideas. So essentially, you're adopting the model of grooming those ideas, helping them grow through the innovation and product life cycle to a point where they are funded. And lastly would be deep engagement in public and private partnerships. I would stop on that.
All right.
I'm happy to delve deep into it.
Yes, we'll come back to you. So what I take, 2 things that I'm taking from what you've said is, as tech players, we must be conversant of regulation, and we must network to influence regulation to our advantage. So we're not in the business of breaching regulation, because regulation can help us, correct, right? Create the right governance structure and also help us to add value to the populace. The second thing that I hear you say is that we must also seek to collaborate. So yes, we might be in competition, but it's important that we build scale, we collaborate where possible, and then we create new things. You also talked about funding, right? So funding, I'm going to talk to Dennis. Dennis is, you know, we are all here because DBN has called us together to talk, right? But one important thing is that for those of us who are techpreneurs here, we want to see the funding opportunities that exist. We want to see how to latch on to them and get funded to grow our business. So, Dennis, why is there a general apathy for structured banks like yours? Why is that there general apathy towards funding tech businesses? And in addition to that, because I know that your organization is doing something to address that, what are those things that you are doing to address the funding gaps that exist?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, big thank you to DBN for organizing this and inviting us. He put me in a very hot seat. It's a tough question, but I'll tell you what my experience has shown. Banks are, but beyond that, they are regulated. And if a bank is to lend, then there are certain steps they must follow. So without going through all that, they are going to test the ability of your business to be sustainable, because what they're actually doing is they are lending that you will pay tomorrow. So they are lending against your future cash flows. They're looking at the structure of your business. And from a regulatory perspective, we would typically take what we call the second way out, which is collateral. Now, this view is typically what you meet when you meet the classic traditional bank. Fintechs find this a bit frustrating, and that's typically because to be, and I heard it in the tech forum once, to be a founder does not necessarily translate to having the competence or the capacity to run your company. So if you are a founder, you don't have to be the one running the company. So what banks need to see you do, have that kind of competence in key places. Things that have emerged in the recent months is you need to have people that are looking at treasury risk. You need to have people that are looking at credit risk. You need to have to be sure that your processes are tidy, that you have structure and organization. Because when you come to a bank to lend to you, that's what they want to see. I can't explain this. I can't belabor this or explain this too much. So in terms of what we've been doing, now we understand that techpreneur, also it depends on where you are, it depends on your growth stage, really. Typically, if you are early growth, you should be looking to capital, seed capital. It's not at that point you should be looking to debt. Because when you come for debt to borrow from a bank, we want to be able to see that you have revenue streams. We want to be able to see that you are able to generate revenue. You're generating revenue today, and you're able to generate revenue in the future. So what we have done, which is a debt play, really, is we partner with institutions like Dbn so that we're able to get funding at a significantly lower cost, which is the interest rate, and we can extend to you. Beyond that, we know that one of the biggest challenges with fintechs, they are largely SMEs, is collateral. You know, so and this is a commodity across every bank right now. You can access loan amounts, average of 10 million, I believe, without having the requisite collateral. They will do a brief credit appraisal of your business, and again, ensure you have that structure. And then you'll be able to borrow that sum from the banks. I want to quickly speak to, so again, because of what I started with, because there is, in essence, a capacity gap. So what we do as banks and what we have done and we're doing as FSDH Merchant Bank is non-financial services intervention. So we are able to take you and we do select cohorts. We're able to take you into a program where we train you, give you the required competency, the required skills, train you, take you through the process so that you are able to prepare for the things that we would ask, or any other bank you go to would ask you to present, the kind of structure that they expect to see in your business. So non-financial services intervention is really very key. And it has to deal with capacity building, training, and in some instances, we can actually extend grants. You know, so this is not debt financing, but we can extend those grants. So without, I think I've said enough.
Yeah, thank you very much, Danny. So from what you've said now, yes, banks have the monies to lend to this space. However, you're looking at the ability of the business to pay, right? You're looking at the sustainability. You want to see that. And what you do at times is that you can help them grow those capabilities and then make them ready to receive funding. And okay, so one of the things that banks do is to help you build the structure. And one important thing that Dennis said is, even though you are the one with the vision, if you don't have capabilities in some areas to grow the business, then you also need to look at, get help. Partner with people and make sure that the business is able to grow. Okay, we'll go to Christine. Christine is a techpreneur. We want her to tell us our journey in this ecosystem. We want her to tell us what the experience have been, the challenges you've had, and also so Christine, our company, they have a unique product in trying to help MSMEs in Nigeria. So that's one of the reasons why we also have her here to tell us, those things that you have in place for MSMEs in Nigeria.
Okay, it's working. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I very keenly listened to what Dennis had to share about opportunities for MSMEs, because I think this is at the forefront of the work that we do. So many of the fintechs that you reference or tech companies like ourselves, our keen interest is in empowering SMEs, empowering businesses to be able to thrive, to be able to demonstrate some of the qualities and the scalability that people like you and FSDH are looking for in customers. I'll say two things about the journey. I think it's incredibly difficult, especially in those early stages, because and I think you see the same thing with early career professionals, right? You need experience to get experience, right? And I think it's very much the same thing for entrepreneurs at the beginning of the journey. You almost need capital to get capital, right? People want to invest in you when you have traction, but you need capital to access that traction. And I think the ability of an entrepreneur, of a founder, of a team leader to survive that early phase of trying to figure out how you can cobble things together, navigate the system so that you can find that social proof, find that proof of concept, build those systems, build those capacities so that you're able to at least access that early stage seed capital is extremely important. It's a journey that we've had to go through ourselves where, and when you say I'm a techpreneur, I think it's important to say that I'm an early stage entrepreneur. So not even at a stage where we would even be able to access that capital, right? So really in the thick of it and seeing some of these challenges and navigating them firsthand. But part of what we've seen is one, the importance of building networks and building partnerships. Two, the importance of really understanding the difference between who your user is and who your customer is, right? So for our product, our users are SMEs, right? Our users are businesses, entrepreneurs, teams that need to build accountability, need to build that documentation, need to see how exactly their processes are translating into revenue or not, right? But the people that are actually going to pay for that product are going to be people like banks, right? So programs like yours that you're running for capacity building are the typical payers for our product. They're actually, you would say, our customers. So we come to people like you and we say, finance or license our product so that you can put this in the hands of the SMEs and the businesses that you're supporting, and then help keep them accountable, because our product makes it extremely easy for you to see whether or not a team is performing against benchmarks and against milestones, and also see how they leverage capital, especially if you do give them access to any sort of grant or debt capital. And I think that this process of understanding the difference between who's paying for your product and who's using for your product is a really, really interesting one. So, I mean, very exciting for us that DBN is one of our partners and is licensing our product to make sure that they can provide this to, you know, the broad swath of SMEs that they are supporting. And I think more of this, to the point about partnerships that was being raised earlier by Shegun, is such a critical aspect of what makes it possible for SMEs, businesses, early stage businesses to thrive in those first stages, in those early days. And to the point that I think the keynote speaker was making about then the compliance piece of it, right? Because all of this falls apart if the I's aren't dotted and the T's aren't crossed. So I would say that in terms of that early stage entrepreneur journey and recognizing the difficulty of it and the circularity of the requirements, it's still so important for you to make sure that you're, you know, dotting your I's and crossing your T's. You're continuously investing in your survivability and in your accountability, and reaching out to build partnerships that allow you to access your customers so that you can gain your users. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Kristen. So Kristen and our team, they have this capacity building product for SMEs, which we are partnering with them to extend to the MSMEs in Nigeria. And I'm sure we would hear a lot around that. So just watch out for through the DBN channels of what we're doing with sport. All right, so I'll go to Busola. Busola is my colleague, and Busola is going to explain to us the unique role of the Development Bank of Nigeria, DBN, in all of this. What do we do for MSMEs? What is it that we're trying to create for them? How do we intend to grow the economy through them? So, Busola.
Thank you, Abiodun. Thank you to all the other panelists. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure we've heard a lot about Development Bank of Nigeria today. I'm just going to be brief about what we do and how we do what we do. The reason why we are here is MSME development, and our impact, our story is impact driven, our bet on a sustainable manner. We are a wholesale finance institution. We're licensed by the CBN to provide access to funding to MSMEs through eligible financial intermediaries. And that's why you see our financial intermediaries sitting on the panelists, because we cannot, sitting as panelists because we cannot do this by ourselves. So our mandate is threefold. The first fold is access to finance. So we do on-lending to MSMEs through participating financial institutions. Our second mandate is that we provide technical assistance and capacity building to PFIs really first, for them to understand the MSME lending, for them to be able to do more in that space, and for them to also build their own capacity to manage their risk as far as SME business is concerned. And then our third mandate is we provide partial credit guarantees to MSMEs, still through PFIs, but we do that through our wholly owned subsidiary, that's Impact Credit Guarantee Limited. The MD is sitting there looking at me too. And then the last part of our mandate is that we also try to upskill the MSMEs, because we know that, like Dennis has mentioned, Shegun also said, the capacity of the MSMEs is also required for them to be able to access funding. So we provide capacity building to MSMEs. For our lending, we've done about 332 billion as of December 2022 to over 313,000 MSMEs. For our capacity building training, we've done over 4,300 training, digital some and others physical. What are we trying to do in the MSME eco space is to ensure that we bring all the partners together and build the MSMEs. And that's why I like this talk about partnership today. The keynote speaker mentioned it. And we've also seen Kamal and Dbn partnership in collaboration with some other PFIs. The reason why all of this is coming together is so that the ecosystem of the MSME is developed and everybody can participate therein. Currently, we are working with about 65 PFIs, still counting. We started in 2017 with just 2, and now we're at 65, and we're still looking forward to onboarding more. Our PFIs are CBN regulated institutions, so we work with commercial banks, merchant banks, microfinance banks, other financial institutions, finance houses, and the likes. And so MSMEs have this ability to go to their PFIs and be able to access funding. And specifically for techpreneurs, because we see the impact that technology and techpreneurs bring into the market, we develop different kind of incentives that we try to use to work with them. I'm sure we'll talk more about that, but DBN is really all about the MSME ecosystem, but working with participating financial institutions and other players in that space to ensure we deliver this service to the MSMEs.
All right, thank you very much, Busola. So right now, if we have questions, right, I think, Mr. Compare, we have questions, let's have them so that we can situate them properly. But I'm going back to, let's see, who's ready to? Okay, no, then it's not you yet. We'll go to Shegun. Okay, Shegun, so in your role, you have a very good perspective of what obtains in other clients outside Nigeria, right? So tell us, what have you guys seen as challenges and opportunity in scaling sustainable tech solutions globally? You know, we have unicorns in Nigeria now, but we also want to build more, because we know that as we build more, we deepen the talent pool in Nigeria that we can extend globally, but we also invariably improve the economy of Nigeria, right? There are so many opportunities that exist because of our population, but we also know that we're losing talent, right? So in your space, what do you see as the challenges and opportunities in scaling sustainable tech solutions globally?
I would speak, thank you very much you're doing. I would start off speaking to opportunities. I think there exists a plethora. There are a number of organizations that are doing quite a lot to bridge that gap. One of the biggest things that I have learned from this is there is actually a shift in the current demography of employable youths. A lot of them do not naturally imbibe into the idea of being an employee. So organizations and governments have to start looking at, well, encouraging ways that those particular demography can exist as either entrepreneurs or up and coming business owners, or engage in employment with an entrepreneurial mindset. What does that lead with? One thing that I see as a big opportunity is partnerships that enhance that sort of thinking. So if you take today within Wema Bank, the way we reach that is we have a number of hackathons and ideathons where we bring that demography together, use it as a way of talent acquisition. But in actual fact, the problem we're trying to solve is create a platform where they can be the best and demonstrate the best of their entrepreneurial thing. So we leave them, we call them misfits within the office when we're in our suits and ties. But the general problem we're trying to solve with them is give them an opportunity where work becomes play. So I think that's one area of opportunity that I see. And that speaks to partnership, it speaks to knowledge transfer, it speaks to knowledge sharing. So it speaks essentially to building that knowledge economy. The second area that I would speak to is international cooperation and funding. I think what is also important is, regardless of what they do or what we all do with regards to innovation, especially in these sort of environments, in Africa essentially, one of the ways that we can instantly create value is create global solutions. And that implies that one, what we call quality must be a quality standard that solves our problems, but also is attractive and appealing to the international community. That's the second thing. The third thing I would speak to is around capacity building, and that goes even slightly lower in the pecking order. That speaks to the competencies that we encourage within our academic institutions. What is happening today, I have seen a number of universities, especially within those that we partner with to build these ideathons and hackathons. The university curriculum are now being expanded, sort of encouraging those students to learn the academic bits, but also introducing an early introduction into the work environment for them. So there are partnerships going on with universities and organizations where they are looking to create that workplace-like environment, taking real business problems to those students within an academic environment and encouraging them to try and solve those. I think I'll pause there.
All right. Thank you very much. So it's to create new entrepreneurs, create that shift in mindset to make sure that people don't think employees, but think problem solving, think being an entrepreneur, removing frictions from everyday lives, and then making sure that you turn them to business opportunities. Thank you. Okay, Busola, so specifically, right, tell us what DBN, looking into the future. So from what Shegun has said, this is going to be a long journey. It's not a today thing. You're not solving all problems today, right, Shegun?
But we must start.
Yeah, so we have started.
Yes.
All right. So Busola is going to tell us, as we go into the future, even starting from now, what are those specific things that DBN as a catalyst is doing?
Thank you, Abiodun.
And specifically in the tech space.
Tech space. Thanks, Abiodun. You made my job easy because you brought Kamwa to talk before us. That's the first way forward for DBN. And so far, I know we've disbursed about 10 billion to innovative and digitally driven institutions, but that's just like a starting point. What we're looking at is that we want to identify these impact drivers
guys that have this innovation, that have technology innovations that are going to change marketplace, change the ways of doing business, and change business strategies as a whole. And we're trying to identify them to see how we can partner with them. We will still work through our PFIs, and we have already put in place some incentives. For instance, we have the interest drawback program, which was specifically developed to ensure that we target some of these impact drivers and they are able to access these funds through the PFIs, and then we incentivize the PFIs to go in this direction. We're also thinking and bringing out innovative products that will be focused on new areas like venture capitals, like startup businesses and all of that. They're all in the pipeline already, being discussed, and they're coming up because we know that there's so much opportunity in this space. Lastly, for fintech companies, we developed a product called the finance to finance product, where fintech companies can also work with their PFIs and access funding for their businesses from the PFIs. We've seen traction. FSDH is one PFI that we've worked with that is actually working in that direction. And some of these things are in place right now. Some others, they're still in the development stages. But we're looking at the tech space as a whole because we see that businesses cannot survive without technology in a way, especially in this world. Marketplace is now digital, technology driven. And so we need MSMEs to be able to upscale in this light. Technical assistant program, the ones I said we do with commercial banks, with banks, we've done to 20 banks at the moment. And it was mostly also working on their own digital strategy to see how they can expand that space and see how they can reach out to more MSMEs using their digital strength. All of these things DBN is doing to see how we can grow the techpreneur space and also grow the MSMEs as a whole. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Busola. So even though DBN is not sector specific, we are agnostic.
But we have some
always
areas
open,
where we
Focus.
really
All right.
want to see the impact.
So right now we want to take questions so that we can, hands are already up.
Have any questions, just raise your hand.
Okay, so as you raise your hand,
introduce yourself and
we'll
take a shot.
attempt to.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kehinde Oyeleke. I represent Best. It's the people that the keynote speaker Olu left because I will have directed the question at him. One of the things he said was that whether in terms of fintech or in terms of financing generally, there are a lot of demographics that have been left out. They have been underfunded. Because those demographics are difficult to serve, whether you're talking of Northeast Nigeria or you're talking of maybe women and other areas. And the reason that it's difficult to serve is because sometimes serving them doesn't work with the profit maximization objective of banks or other institutions. My question is, who is going to drive the process of serving these neglected demographics because they can't be left behind? Thank you.
I imagine that we'll take all the questions in one fell swoop.
Okay, yes, please. Let's
So
have
let's
more
have those
questions so that we
hands up.
can attempt to
Please just
answer.
keep questions very short so we can take.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Molayo Maria. I've listened to all our panelists and proud for panelists. Before now, we are not employable. Now we are in the entrepreneurial period. Everybody keeps saying capacity building, capacity building. What exactly are you building the capacity?
Lady has a hand up, all right?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Adora A. from Oncopadi Technologies Limited. So my question is directed to DBN. We understand that less than 5% of female entrepreneurs are able to access funding. So how is DBN helping to bridge that gap and create more funding support for women entrepreneurs?
Thank you. Okay, final
Question.
question, I believe, and back to the panel.
We have one question for DPN.
Yeah, thank you very much. So my name is Shego Gulano. I'm the founder at Ijebu Market. What we do majorly is end-to-end procurements for food and agricultural commodities to manufacturers, exporters, and bulk buyers. So my question is actually connected to the keynote speech by Mr. Olua that is talking about the excluded and the underserved. And those are the places that we source all the commodities, soya bean, chili pepper, ginger, and every other thing. So speaking with DBN, I'm actually looking at the finance for inputs as well as the offtake of these agricultural commodities that is actually harvested by these farmers and everything. Because if you're talking about SMEs, those people are SMEs in their own space. That's one. Secondly, the capacity building. Beyond the capacity building that you have for SMEs in the commercial cities, and we look at the capacity building for some of all these farmers. Let me take an example quickly. Chili pepper is actually something that is used by many manufacturing companies. But because of the production process that these farmers use, they spread it on the ground. Sometimes they spread it on the road. And these things actually have stones that actually destroy some of the machines that these processors use. So if we are able to train those people properly, they will actually be able to prepare the chili pepper properly that it will not destroy the machines. The manufacturers tell me, Mr. Shegun, we can't finance that. So you find a way to train those people that they prepare this thing properly. Then so that's the second one. Then the third one, the guarantee. Your guarantee is structured the same way with NISAL. So we need to have more clarity on your guarantee structure. And for Kamwa, I think we'll actually need to see how we can work with that one, because small manufacturers is actually they are facing something challenge which we are solving. And that is when I look at a big manufacturer, you're buying soya bean at 260 naira per kilo. But when you look at these small manufacturers, they are probably buying it around 310, 300 naira per kilo. Now, what is causing that is the supply chain inefficiency and logistics. We already have that solved already. So, but some of them will also need input finance, which I think what Kamwa has gives them options of who can finance their input. So thank you for bringing that on. And for the marketplace, of course, our top layer is marketplace, like you mentioned, Matt, so we can talk. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Back to the panel.
So we would attempt to answer the questions now. Shegun will take the second one on what capacity building really is, right? And then you can also attend. And then Busola will talk specifically to what we are doing for women. And Dennis and Christine, you can also add your thoughts.
Okay, so I'll go first because I like questions about women. It just makes me happy generally. All right. So for DBN, we're really one area that is of great importance to us is MSMEs, women MSMEs being able to access funding. As at December last year, 67% of our MSME end borrowers are women, while 22% volume has gone to women. That's a KPI, key performance indicator with the bank that we track with all seriousness, because we believe that when you empower the women, then you empower the society. So we're very committed to that. In addition to that, we actually developed a specialized women product, which you will start to see with the PFIs. Like I said, our mandate is wholesale, so all of this you would have to see through the PFIs. But we're very committed to women MSME development. Even our capacity building for MSMEs, we ensure that a certain percentage of that attendants, participants in those trainings are women. So DBN is committed to women MSME lending. For the agri sector and the question about capacity building to farmers, I know we had some session on capacity building in the Northwest, Northeast in the past 2 or 3 weeks, and most of the participants within those trainings were actually farmers. The low-end kind of farmers. And I know we had to take some of those trainings even in their local dialect so that they will understand. So we are particular about, areas where we can get impact. And some of those areas are those agri areas, especially in the Northeast and Northwest. I know Mr. Ileke mentioned who is going to go there. So these are some of the initiatives that are being put in place for us to be able to ensure that we capture that market, because really that's the underserved market. So we're here, we can have discussions after the session. If there are areas where we can collaborate, if there are areas where we can partner, we can think about that together and see how we can bring more people into the things that we do. For our partial credit guarantee, it's still on a wholesale model. It's not direct, so it's not the same as the NISAL that you mentioned. It's slightly different, but also we can talk about it later after the session. We can engage further. Well, we are sector agnostic, so we are not specifically focused on agri or tech, but we are we have areas that we are very interested in. And agri technology is one of them, and that's the whole essence of this Techpreneur Summit, because those are huge impact areas that have a lot of value chain and downlines that if we're able to capture everything, we can grow that space and grow the economy as a whole.
Yeah, thank you very much, Busola. So Shegun, attempt to define capacity building, and then if you have any closing thoughts,
Okay.
let's have that.
Thank you very much, Biodun. Interesting question. I will attempt to define from an academic and a practical perspective. So from an academic perspective, my best attempt would be to define capacity building as a continuous process that happens at an individual, organizational, and societal level to produce, to perform, and to deploy innovative solutions. In the context of today's conversation, it is capacity building for technology solutions that can scale and are sustainable globally. So that's my best attempt to speak from an academic context. From a practical perspective, I would take something we do within Wema Bank as an example. One of the, so we had an audit, a study a few years ago, looking at problems within the SME ecosystem. There were three key things that came out. One was access to funding. The second was around marketplaces. And the third was knowledge. So providing capacity for business owners to scale, to manage their finances, and essentially think through how they would grow their solutions in a way that it becomes consistently competitive and they can differentiate even better. How did we try to solve that and provide capacity building? We run today a partnership with the Frankfurt Business School. We have a number of cohorts that happen every year. We bring in over 2,000 SMEs as part of that program. There's a strong curriculum that goes over 3 or 4 different thematic pillars that provide knowledge and capacity for those SMEs, which will help solve that problem. So that's a practical example that we take within the bank to solve that problem. A school would do that by revising their curriculum or syllabus so that it also covers some of those gaps in the ecosystem. Let me pause on that.
All right, thank you very much, Shegun. So capacity building is basically identifying the skills that you have to grow your business, and where we see gaps, help to close those gaps so that you can do your business better. That's what it is. And it's continuous. So as things are evolving, you are also gaining new knowledge and improving on your business. So last thoughts, Christine and Dennis, so that we can wrap up.
Okay, she asked me to go ahead. So I have some thoughts on, I think, each of the questions. To the first question, one, banks. And note, when I mentioned banks earlier, I said legacy. So we are not denying that fact. As banks, we have legacy behind us. We are legacy institutions. Which is why the way to move forward is partnership with fintechs, or tech companies rather. So when you identify a tech company that has a value proposition that is able to go down markets, then we are able to partner with them, and those interventions, whether they are financial or non-financial, are able to move faster. That will be my take on that. On capacity building, again, what I said earlier, that you are a co-founder. I mean, why the statistics that says a startup is more likely to succeed when you have a co-founder. So if you are a founder and you're just alone, please get someone else. As a co-founder, that you're a co-founder does not necessarily translate into having the right business skills to grow the business. You have an impactful idea, but you still need to get those skills. So one, personally for yourself, and then two, the resource, the human resource around you. So when we say capacity building, that's what we're talking about. And those are the kinds of interventions that we bring in. One key one is if you want to be able to access finance, there are certain ways you need, there's a certain language we speak. You need to learn that language so that we can have a conversation. Okay? Closing thoughts would be, so in business banking in FSDH Merchant Bank, we have two subunits. There's fintech and there's women in business. So we're very focused on tech, on the tech space, and we're very focused on the women in tech space. So for instance, we have an ongoing program now where capacity building again for women in that space. So if you're a woman in tech, then it's about you right now. This is your moment. One of the key things we realize is that entrepreneurs are challenged when they meet milestones as they grow in business. You've never been there before. You've never met it before. And what you probably need at that stage, you need a coach. So we have those kind of programs that we are bringing in as interventions. We're starting with the women. Eventually we'll get to everybody, which includes the men. So on the non-financial services, those are the things we're leading with. On the financial services side, it's essentially products where we partner with the likes of Dbn and we can give you lower interest rates. And we can also structure our lending around what you are doing. So for instance, permit me to close on this note, and especially for the tech companies who lend and your asset light, we can sit down and look at your lending book, and based on that, we can come to some sort of agreement on how we take that as collateral and we're able to lend to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dennis. Christine?
So I think I'll say three things. On the point on women, women's access to capital and opportunities for women. I think they're real challenges. 5% is even higher than I've seen in certain places. So we do know that it's a challenge, but I think the big thing is putting yourself out there more. I think that when you're confronted with such terrifying statistics, sometimes you're even apprehensive about fully putting yourself out there as an entrepreneur. But I think that visibility is so important because you can't help what you can't see. So I think just showing up and doing the work is there's no substitute for it, honestly. To this point about capacity building, and I really sort of hear some of the underlying anxiety of the question. I think part of what also entrepreneurs need to do more is learn to understand what their own gaps are and what their own deficits are. So I've certainly seen programs that don't quite meet the practical need of the entrepreneurs because they've kind of been designed, in Frankfurt, but entrepreneurs operating in a village, like great, like it's cool, but it's not helping, right? So I think it's also about articulating the needs that you have as an entrepreneur and the gaps that you're seeing when you get feedback from a lender, when you get feedback from your coach, articulating those clearly and communicating those to people who are in a position to design such programs so that those programs are designed, to solve your need. One of the things that we do a lot as an institution is reach out to organizations like WEMA, Dbn, and FSDH to say, look, we work with entrepreneurs, we work with SMEs, let's help you design these curricula so that you can actually develop something that's actually practical, and to meet last mile needs. And to that last point about how do we actually reach the last mile, I think it comes back to what we've been echoing throughout this conversation is partnerships, right? We all need to kind of hold hands and stretch along the way. So that would really be my last point there.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you. Let's a round of applause for the panelists. So the takeaway is this: we need to continue talking amongst ourselves. We need to continue to create networks, entrepreneurs, lenders, different stakeholders in the ecosystem. We need to continue to talk. A concept that I leave with you, which, for us who are technology people, you know what it is. It's agile. So it means that you are nimble, and as you're going through your journey, you identify the opportunities. You are agile enough to make changes, to tweak. So a program might be from Frankfurt, for example. We need to be able to adapt it to the Nigerian context. And as we do that, we'll see that in no time, we are able to have the development that we want. So thank you so much, Dennis, Christine, Busola, and Shegun. And thanks to the board and management of DBN for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you. Okay, so I've been told that we have to take pictures as panelists for today, so please.
Yes, the conversation will not stop and it will continue. All relevant stakeholders are enjoined to participate in the conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelists have added their voices to the discourse and they've shared from their wealth of personal and professional experience. Thank you very much, our panelists. We also have 2 photographs that will happen right about now. Please join me to welcome the director of DBN, Independent Non-Executive Director, Mr. Kiari Buka. Please join them on stage. The management team, represented by the CEO, DBN, Mr. Bonaventure Kaimo, and Head Corporate Services, DBN, Mr. Salu. Please also join them on stage for this group photograph. Maratsi, that is your key. Yes, that will be the second. All right. Don't worry. For those of you not on the stage, you missed that joke, and I won't share it. All right, final photograph, the director and the panelists. Hamad team, please join us on stage. Mary Esther, please also join us on stage. Thank you. Right, Mary Esther is walking to the stage from the back. Paparazzi, just hold it until she gets here. Have the full complement. All those be in the group photograph. Looks good on the side. Right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being very, very kind. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you are well aware, DBN is a wholesale financial institution, and yet DBN is a wholesale financial institution, and DBN has partnerships with participating financial institutions. Some of them are well represented in the room. I'll just run through the list of all the participating financial institutions. And at the end, I'll beg your indulgence to give them a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Axion Microfinance Bank. We have, okay, if you can sustain it to the end, that's fine. We have Infinity Microfinance Bank. We have Baobab Microfinance Bank. We have Sterling Bank. We have City Code Mortgage. We have Wema Bank. We have Lapo Microfinance Bank. We have FST Merchant Bank. We have Providus Bank. We have Home-Based Mortgage. We have Seedvest Microfinance Bank. We have Stanbic IBTC, we have AB Microfinance Bank, we have Fidelity Bank, we have Bosak Microfinance Bank, we have Empire Trust, we have Living Trust Mortgage, we have EcoBank, and we have OPE. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for all of our participating financial institutions that are represented in the room. Thank you very much for your efforts so far and for helping to see that the mandate of DBN is expertly delivered. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a very, very interesting time so far. To give us the session wrap up, please join me to welcome back on stage one more time, member of the board of directors of DBN. Please make welcome Independent Non-Executive Director, Development Bank of Nigeria, DBN, Mr. Buka Kiari. Round of applause for him as he takes the stage for the session wrap up.
Thank you, MC. Good afternoon.
this is quite interesting. Techpreneur Summit 2.0. I think 23 looks like we've done 22 times. The year, sorry. One of the key things that I see myself in on the board is that of the techie guy. So just like our head of IT enunciated some of the things at the board, there is a deferral to carry. Unfortunately for the techies, every problem looks like a nail for somebody who has the only tool they have is a hammer, right? But one of the key things that I have gotten from today's summit is, of course, Olu did quite an exceptional presentation in giving us the view about the ecosystem and the challenges the ecosystem faces. For techpreneurs and generally even speaking by extension for all entrepreneurs, the challenge of access to finance persists, particularly in an environment like ours, where the commercial banks have processes that have been developed and that had been around for the last 260 or so odd years, where a lot of paper documentation has to go on to lend one loan. Whereas the fintechs have actually more or less disrupted that. But as Olu highlighted, they went after the low-hanging fruit, which is the already banked, but underserved or lesser served by the commercial banks. So I think we, as a wholesale bank, that is DBN, we need to be innovative in our approach on lending so that the ultimate PFIs who are our partners lend out appropriately, quickly, efficiently, and efficaciously to the MSMEs. Now, I commend DBN management for the innovative approach of onboarding or partnering with Kamau. You know, when I Googled Kamau, the only one I saw was the mining entity. So I was asking if there is any relationship between that. And I was told it's not. The other thing for technology entrepreneurs is that whatever product or service you have, please spend time and energy in transforming it into a platform if possible. And that exercise is possible. I spent a week at the Wharton Business School just a month or so ago on digital transformation. And we had to apply that exercise for someone selling the equivalent of an akara. Can an akara seller be a platform? Go figure that one out. But the whole point is that with a platform, what Kamau has brought into this partnership with DBN is exceptionally going to be the network effect of utilizing partners in stretching the business model in such a manner that every partner in that network is bringing value. So I commend DBN for this initiative and also the PFIs that have decided to be the guinea pigs and wish everybody success in the undertaking. And as I had mentioned in the first Techpreneur Summit, I'm always available when it comes to somebody providing a platform where we can have a conversation about the future of techpreneurs and, you know, entrepreneurs in general. And to me, that's the bane
for the core, the heartbeat of the economy, because this is where jobs are created, more jobs, by the way, than the larger entities who are looking at innovation more in terms of incremental changes rather than disruptions. So I wish the organizers good luck and success. And I wish the participants have gotten a bit of capacity building, if you will, in some of the conversations that have taken place, and then engage more for follow-ups. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, as long as the world exists in this form, there will always be problems, and technology can always be deployed to provide solutions to those problems. That is one of the reasons we've gathered here today. And yes, we must indeed thank the board for providing visionary leadership to DBN. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a member of the board of directors, independent non-executive director at DBN, Mr. Kiari. Another round of applause for him. Thank you very much, sir, for those words. All right, ladies and gentlemen, right about now, we'll be presenting to you the Eco Innovation winners. And yes, we have 3 winners that will be presented. It might interest you to know that the Eco Innovation Challenge is sponsored by DBN, and yes, it is a platform designed to support tech entrepreneurs in Nigeria, developing innovative ideas that promote sustainability by focusing on 3 key areas: agriculture, environment, and sustainable energy. For this year, we have 3 winners. Ladies and gentlemen, to speak more on that, please join me to welcome Corporate Communications Officer at DBN, Sadiq Wada. A round of applause for him. Takes the stage.
Everyone. Sadiq Wada, and I work for the Development Bank of Nigeria. About 2 years ago, DBN held its inaugural Techpreneur Summit right here in this very hall. And at that event, we threw a challenge to the tech industry called the Dbn Innovation Challenge. As you all know, we are very big on sustainability at DBN, hence we needed to find a creative way to engage this innovative industry to come up with sustainable solutions that can impact positively and add value on our environment. So what is the DBN Eco Innovation Challenge? DBN Eco Innovation Challenge seeks to motivate tech entrepreneurs to come up with ideas that will promote sustainable solutions that speaks to key main areas: environment, sustainable agriculture, and renewable energy or sustainable energy. The challenge was open to all Nigerians above 18 within and outside the country. The challenge ran from 10th April to 8th May. I required the participants to submit a 60-second video of themselves on social media tagging the bank of how these ideas impact positively in these 3 main areas. Our panel of judges, who are experts in the relevant areas, reviewed the submissions, and all in all, we had 79 submissions. Like every competition, not everybody must be a winner. So after a rigorous selection process, yes, we have our winners. But just before we call them up here to celebrate them, I would just like to see, out of the 79 submissions, the judges confided in us that it was actually hectic for them to pick the winners because there were a lot of wonderful submissions. So ladies and gentlemen, let's celebrate all those that were able to participate at the DBN Eco Innovation Competition. Timmy, I'll just hand over now so that we can celebrate the winners. Are they present here with us? Timmy? Joining me on stage to present the checks to the winners, I would like to call on the MD's ICGL, Mr. Antonio Aswani, to please join us in presenting the check to the third place winner, Godwin Adoga. Godwin Adoga, please join us on stage.
Godwin Adoga is the visionary founder behind OG Capital, an organization dedicated to facilitating access to safe, accessible, and fertile land within specially designed farming estates. OG Capital offers not only land, but also essential resources such as equipment, water supply, security, storage facilities, and on-demand farming personnel. One of the unique aspects of OG Capital's services is the establishment of channels that enable seamless transactions between subscribers and wholesalers throughout the year. This ensures the harvest of OG Capital subscribers have a defined and reliable route to market, ensuring profitability and market access. By the year 2027, envisions introducing 100,000 new individuals to the world of farming. OG Capital prioritizes safety and aims to create an engaging and enjoyable farming experience for its visitors. Third place, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Godwin Adoga.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You may take your seat now. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another round of applause. It's not easy to come up with sustainable ideas that would impact positively on our environment. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I would like for Ayodele, the head business development for DBN, to please join us in presenting the check to the second winner. Please join us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in giving a warm welcome to Monica Etim-Monday, CFO of Solaris Nigeria Limited. Thank you.
Monica Etim-Monday is an entrepreneur, international speaker, auditor, and business developer with years of expertise in result-oriented practices that achieve corporate goals and profitability. She is very passionate about agri-tech, food systems and technology, climate action, and energy transition. She is a highly self-motivated and purpose-driven individual that has gained both local and international recognition. She is currently the CFO of Solaristic Nigeria Limited. Solaristic Nigeria Limited, agri-tech, recycling, and clean energy company that is turning old, abandoned, and discarded frameworks into a range of low-cost, hyper-efficient, solar-powered cold storage units for off-grid use. Ladies and gentlemen, for second place, please put your hands together for Monica Etim-Monday.
Thank you. Thank you. Take your seat. Thank you. Joining us to present the first place winner check, I would like to call on the Chief Operating Officer of the Development Bank of Nigeria, representing the MD, Dr. Tony Obadachi. I also like for the Head of Corporate Services, Mr. Idris Salio, to join in as we present the check to the overall winner. Please join on stage Onemesi Charles Atere, founder, Nimsi Solar Pumps, as the overall winner of the Dbn 2023 Eco Innovation Challenge winner. Thank you.
Lead me to my destiny. I waited patiently. I have been
solar pumps, enterprise dedicated to constructing solar-powered water pumps for farm irrigation. For over 4 years, Onimsi has worked closely with smallholder farmers, offering support in various aspects such as farm inputs, machinery, market insights, and advisory services. Nimsi solar pumps are affordable and designed for farm irrigation. These pumps enable farmers to engage in year-round farming activities, therefore improving their overall livelihood and enhancing food production. They offer accessible, cleaner, and sustainable alternatives. The solar pump provided by Nimsi not only mobile, but also boasts zero carbon emissions, making it
Congratulations. Hello, Timmy. Group photograph with the winners, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, the three winners of the Eco Innovation Challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a warm round of applause. And yes, it's all about problem solving and the three key areas: environment, sustainable agriculture, and sustainable energy. All our winners, it is indeed a moment of triumph. Thank you very much. All our winners, please may go back to your seats. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And most importantly, thank you for your presence. It is not really my place to say thank you. So on behalf of the organizers, allow me to invite to give the vote of thanks the Chief Operating Officer, DBN, Mr. Bonaventure Okaimo. Round of applause for him.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. There was a man, a very rich man, that decided to have a wedding party and a feast for the first daughter that was getting married. He invited all his friends, colleagues, and on the wedding day, he was very, very disappointed. You know why? Nobody showed up. So he had to tell his servants to go to the highways and the byways to go bring in any person at all. Just make sure they borrow suits and dresses and come to attend the wedding banquet. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, let me first and foremost thank all of you in this hall. You saved us the embarrassment of going to Abule Egba under the bridge, all the highways, all the nooks and crannies of Vegas to look for admirals and all the other people to fill our hall. You have done us very well, and we are proud of you. Because it would have been very funny if we had come here today and we have stood in front of an empty hall. So all the wonderful speeches, thank you. I also would like to thank our independent director and who represented the board of the Development Bank of Nigeria. The support from the board has been very, very enormous, and he displayed it today by coming to be with us from the beginning to the end of this exciting event. Let me also thank the keynote speaker, my brother, Olu Akamu. Unfortunately, he couldn't wait to the end, but he honored us by delivering a very eloquent speech. And I'm sure we all gained quite a lot from it. Let me also use this opportunity to thank all the panelists, from the ones that I know and the ones that I did not know before. I learned from them. I would like to thank Kamal. I'd like to thank, in fact, I don't want to continue mentioning names because if I continue, I end up making some people unhappy with us. But finally, let me also thank the management and staff of the Development Bank of Nigeria for putting this together. This is our second Techpreneur Summit, and I know it's going to be a yearly event. And we're very happy that it's something that we've all come to hold very dear. We've done quite a lot of organization. So I will not forget to thank the people that were behind the scene that put all of this together. Although there was a time when I like, oh my God, Murphy's Law again, whatever go wrong, go wrong. Is it at the time my MD wanted to make a speech that you guys decided that you were going to put up the light or what? But I realized that this is innovation. And innovation says that we learn from our mistakes. So like Michael Faraday said, he has discovered 1,000 ways of doing it wrongly. So the next time, I assure you, we are going to do it rightly. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and please have a beautiful day. Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, words well spoken by the Chief Operating Officer, DBN, Mr. Bonaventure Kama. Thank you very much, sir. All right, the final activity is a group photograph. All representatives of the PFIs in the room, please, let's have one representative each for this final group photograph. Thank you very much. Let's do that quickly. Thank you very much. All representatives of participating financial institutions in the room, please come up on stage for a group photograph. They will be joined on stage by the head corporate services. PFIs, please, quickly, so we can have that group photograph sorted. They will be joined on stage by the head corporate services, Dbn Techpreneur Summit, and also the managing director of ICG, Anthony Asonye. Yes, the CEO is already on stage. So all representatives of all the participating financial institutions in the hall, please, let's have one representative on stage for this group photograph. Thank you. Paparazzi, please direct them as appropriate. So ladies and gentlemen, once that is done, we will proceed to the All right, so once that is done, we will proceed to the serving points for lunch. Lunch will be served immediately after now. Paparazzi, are we good? Or do we need to still make some adjustments? Right, paparazzi, that is your cue. Have representatives of all the participating financial institutions in the hall on stage. Yes, we also have the management team, DBN as represented on stage, and the MD, ICG. Paparazzi, we're good? All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, as you go back to your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the second edition of the Dbn Techpreneur Summit. It's all right to be generous with your round of applause at this point. So that you can get an invitation for the third edition, which will happen next year by God's grace. All right, ladies and gentlemen, lunch is served. So yes, there are 2 serving points in the hall as we speak. We have a serving point at the back to my right. There's also another serving point for lunch at the back to my left. So please proceed to the nearest serving point for lunch. For all our guests and dignitaries, we have a serving point on this side towards the front. You will be directed appropriately by the ushers, so that is where your meal will be served. Thank you very much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, I trust that you continue to do good in your sectors. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.